Who and what we stand up for and what we stay silent about, what we monetize versus what we actually live matters. I have so much to say about the last 2 years of my life, but tonight is not the forum. What I will speak to separately is the feeling of being a woman who has a voice today. It's not for us to have shame. It's
Who and what we stand up for and what we say silent about what we monetize versus what we actually live matters. I have so much to say about the last 2 years of my life, but tonight is not the forum. What I will speak to separately is the feeling of being a woman who has a voice today. It's not for us to have shame. It's for them. Hi besties. Welcome back to my channel. Blake Lively and the Wayfair parties have now been ordered into a settlement conference. This is not something that they get out of. It is now an order in the court, and non-compliance in the process and non-compliance in working through and to a settlement would be deemed contempt of court. As of today. Right now, they are required through their attorneys to show up on the 15th for a video conference with the magistrate judge named Sarah Cave to determine the time, the date, the availability, and the type of settlement conference they're going to have, whether it's going to be in person, if it's going to be by telephone, or by video conference. And then that meeting is on December 15th. So, their attorneys on December 15th are going to be meeting with Sarah Cave, and they're going to talk about what their availability is for the conference, what kind of conference they want to have, and then once they get that all together, Sarah will put together some proposed dates and the parties will determine what works best for everyone. Okay? Now that it's in order, it means that everyone must participate. If they don't participate, it is deemed contempt of court. So, what are settlement conferences like and what does it mean? There's a little bit of misinformation that's out here right now, and one is that settlements are required or mandatory in New York or in all federal cases. And that's not true. In the Southern District of New York, there is no local rule that says every single case must go to settlement. Instead, it is a tool that can be used in high conflict cases, in civil cases where the two parties are on diametrically different sides, but are also so high conflict that it's putting a big burden on the court. Okay? And a big burden on the court is meaning you're going to the court constantly to settle your conflicts, and it's putting an excess tax burden, like taxing the system because of all the requests and demands you're asking of the court to handle. High conflict cases drain the system. They cause all other things in the court system to get delayed. And so sometimes the best way to remove that drain on the court is to see if the parties can settle. Now settlement is not what you think it is. Okay? It's not someone goes into a settlement and says you're going to pay me $15 million and then I'll walk away. That's not how settlement works at all. Alright? Settlements are done by, in this case, a magistrate judge who is a neutral third party, and her job is to help both sides find common ground and a common resolution that is best for all parties. It might not be what all parties want. It might not be your top 5 things of what you want, but it's ultimately a compromise based upon what is before the magistrate. So, I went through settlements a couple years ago. I'm not going to say for what case, but participation in these systems, you can walk in the door and be like, I'm not going to settle. But these magistrates and judges, they are very skilled at managing high conflict. They are very skilled at helping both sides see where the other is coming from. And they also are very good at helping to explain to both sides the weaknesses that their case may have if it goes to trial. So if you're going to bring this case to trial, this is where your case may fall apart. These judges are also very good at explaining and helping people understand what it actually means to be in a trial and what that kind of exposure can do to someone, especially a celebrity like the Blake Lively people. I mean, not even just for celebrities, but like once you go to trial, like all your secrets are fair game, right? Everything's on the table. No more hiding behind a seal. And in this case, they'd been hiding behind a seal. At least on Blake's side. And I think in this situation, there's a unique space for this judge to help them understand that maybe they don't have the case that they think they have, and that it might be best not only for Blake and Ryan, but also for Wayfair, that everyone finds a solution. A peaceful one. In my case, what my experience was is you don't have to be in the same room with the people, right? We did a video conference and then we would be on the video conference all together and then he did breakouts with us. Okay? So, we came together to talk about what was on the agenda for the day and then you are with your legal team, they are with their legal team and then the judge goes back and forth between the sides. That's how mine went. And so on my side, we discussed like what are the things that you want? What are your concerns? Tell me your side of the story, right? And then they go to the other side. And then what the judge does is the judge comes from both perspectives very neatly and explains like this is what their concern is. This is what their issue is. Here's your position. Here's what I think is something that could work to resolve that issue. Right? They can't force you to settle. Right? And so they will start providing options of what might be feasible given the conflict and what the scope of the conflict entails. In this case, it may not settle, I don't know. But they can't force anyone to do anything. They also can't force Blake and Ryan to apologize. And they can't force Justin to pay for something that he didn't do. And so if both sides dig their heels in and they don't want to settle, they won't. But if they do and they have an open mind and they're willing to work through it, they can find a resolution that would work for everyone. Truthfully, it's possible. I swear to God, it doesn't mean that it's what you want. It doesn't mean it's what I want. And it doesn't mean it's what's right, but it's what happens. Settlements will almost never include an apology ever because apologies on a legal perspective admit liability. Alright? So Blake and Ryan will never apologize for this if they go to settlement. They will also never apologize if they go to trial and lose because apologies mean liability in the legal system. So if you were to apologize, if Blake and Ryan were to get up and say, "I'm so sorry. I totally lied," that literally opens them up to a lawsuit for malicious prosecution. They will never admit they lied. And so a magistrate will never make them admit they lied. But you might get a statement, that comes out of a settlement that's like after some deep reflection, it's come to my attention that based upon the stress and the fatigue I was going through at the time of making this film, I may have misunderstood and misconstrued some situations that weren't as bad as I thought they might have been. And after an incredible settlement process, I've come to realize that Belen and Wayfair really did have my best intentions at heart or something like that, but they're never going to say they're sorry. Does that make sense? It can also mean they go to trial and they just dig their heels in and they don't move forward. That doesn't mean it's the end either. So, a settlement can also and does not need to include money. So, in the case of my settlement, no money changed hands on either side. No one paid for anyone's attorney's fees, nothing. Everyone walked away and it was just over. And that can feel extremely unsatisfying. But in the world of the federal court system, and I can tell you this from my own experience, there is a rule of the American rule, and it's that everyone is required to pay their own attorney's fees. Okay? You can't force someone to pay for damages if the damages didn't happen. And you can't force, Wayfair to give up their rights to a film because that's what you asked the magistrate to give you, Like I want the rights to It Starts With Us, it'll never happen. So sometimes leverage can be used on the side of Wayfair where it's like, well, I'll agree not to appeal the case. I'll agree not to pursue you for malicious prosecution. I'll agree not to X, Y, and Z if you walk away without taking a dime. Does that make sense? Okay. I hope that makes sense. Each side has leverage, right? And they have to use the leverage to the best of their ability. And I would venture to say that the person that's in the best position for a settlement favorable to them is Justy. Out with the evidence. So now it's a standing order. And why do I think that there's a good chance that he would win if they went to trial if I mean that he would get a good settlement here? Well, some things have come out, right, with the evidence and with some of these admissions that have happened recently. Okay. When Blake filed her responses to the court related to the 56. One where she admitted to certain things that happened and she has a really big problem because she admits she lied and it's 42 and it's part of the 56. One undisputed facts. Lively has since disclosed that her husband Ryan Reynolds actually wrote the revisions to the rooftop scene that she proposed. Undisputed. Why is that an issue? Because the 5 points before that were all about how Lively had been pressuring him to accept her revisions of the rooftop scene. How she had used her friends Taylor Swift and her husband Ryan Reynolds to push him to accept the revisions. How she sent text messages back and forth where she was telling him that she was writing this. She did not at any time disclose that Ryan was doing this. She was representing to him that it was her writing. It was her revisions, and she lied because it was really Ryan who did the writing. And that's the kind of lie that can unravel the whole case. Because if she lied about writing and rewriting the script, what else did she lie about? Once a plaintiff admits to lying on one thing, they become uncredible in the court. And if Blake were to go on to the witness stand because of her history of lying, the judge could tell the court and the jury due to her own admissions of lying. There could be a jury instruction that they are not to take what she says as fact and to consider that she has lied and has admitted to lying in these sworn documents. And when you have a plaintiff that is admitted to lying, it is a big problem in the case, because when you start talking about all the pressure that's getting applied here and she's 4. And another claim they made was that, well, they had previously conspired with the New York Times to plant a piece about me in Nov in August of 24. Evidence, they admit that there's no evidence for that. And it's undisputed that Baldoni had nothing to do with any of the articles that came out about her that were negative. So I don't know that the judge is reading all of these documents, but his clerks might be. And the clerks could be telling him, like, she's admitting to lying. She's admitting in here that, they planted stories. She's admitting that she lied about her husband's role in this. She's admitting that this isn't just about her, it's about her and her husband. And then, is it really a case of sexual harassment, or is it truly, as where Wayfair describes, a case about a hostile takeover of a film? So Blake has incentive to settle, because the humiliation of that all being in a public space at a trial would destroy her and Brian's careers forever. I mean, if they haven't already been destroyed, I don't know. Blake might never work again because of the liability that she is. I don't know where Ryan's at. I don't think anyone should work with Ryan. But I will say that their reputations at this point are not good. And if they were to go to trial, it would get worse. And we saw what happened to Amber Heard when she went to trial, right? She lost. I mean, she lost on the claims that she defamed him. They also found that Johnny was liable for defaming her as well, or it was like, I don't remember if he defamed her something. There was something where both had liability, but her liability was greater for what she had done to him. And she doesn't have a career anymore. She lives in Europe. She's like invisible. And she even after she lost, doubled down and did not say she was wrong. So even if Blake were to lose, she wouldn't admit she was wrong. I think that if the magistrate judge is like the mediator that I had and the judge that I had, they might be able to convince Blake and Ryan that they don't have a case, and going to trial would be very bad for them. And I think a very skilled magistrate could help them find a resolution that will work. And I think if they can help Wayfair see that an apology will not be possible because of the liability, but that no future claims would be made against them, and they could craft a statement for both sides to put out, you might see a resolution. Is it a fair one? No. Does it absolve them of their liability? I mean, legally, yes. But in the eyes of the public, they've already lost. So, tell me what your thoughts are in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, bestie.